Hello and welcome to the Convention of States Michigan podcast. I am your host, Robin Riddell.
And I am your co-host, Kelly Olford. And our guest today is a very special guest. We're so excited to have him with us and to glean his insights into today's culture and church culture, Christian community, things like that all around Michigan.
Winsten Dickerson is a campus pastor for the Chesterfield campus of Woodside Bible in northern Macomb County. We wanted to have you on this podcast because we believe we share a bit of a common ground with you. We seem to be at a crossroads where we need both a constitutional renaissance and a religious renaissance. What is your perspective on that picture?
Yeah, no, I think in our culture, we have seen a dramatic change of what morality is. And so even if people were not Christians or religious, I guess you can say, there was still an innate understanding that we're going to be highly moral, we're going to be driven, we're going to be family oriented. And so what we've seen is a shift away from that morality. And so where things were done in the home, people were developed in the home, that has now shifted and been broken. So there is a different struggle with what is true and what is not true. And so in this time, and you throw different transitional times for our culture, maybe it's with social media in 2005, 2006, maybe it's the iPhone 2008, maybe it is war, maybe it is COVID. All these things have either added fuel to the fire or it has been something that caused people just to ask questions they've never asked before. But definitely we're at a crossroad morally, which always bleeds into spiritually. And where is our church? What are churches going to do in this time to meet that need? But I would agree that we're at a place right now where people are asking questions and they're looking for answers, and they're looking anywhere. And are we going to be ready for that? Are we going to be ready to answer the questions that people are fervently seeking?
What is it, or can you tell us some things that the church is doing or that Woodside Bible specifically is doing to meet that need?
Yeah. So I would say Woodside, because of the 14 campuses, each community is different. So with our campus specifically, we have a food pantry. And so one of the things we do is we want to meet the needs of our community who are struggling economically, struggling financially. And so every other Saturday, we were able to serve at the food pantry, but not just give food, but also engage them in conversation, have a meal with them, pray with them. That's one of the needs. And even within our church, when people come and be part of our church, we want to meet the needs of our people that are within the walls through benevolence funds, through caring for families. And we see that almost every month, people having needs. So whether you're outside the walls or within the walls, we want to meet a need where you're struggling financially. And then also, again, as a pastor, you don't want to answer questions people aren't asking, right? And so sometimes we miss the mark. We're answering questions no one's asking. And so we're looking to say, okay, when we have a Bible study, when we have a life group, when we have a teaching series, are these questions that people are seeking out? We want to meet people where they're at. I think about Jesus. Jesus was perfect at meeting people exactly where they were at and then guiding them, asking questions, ministering them to take them by the hand and walk them to the place that he wanted them to go. And so where we are, touching on, doctrine within the church. Why do we believe this? Why do we believe that Jesus is the only way? Maybe it's Bible study. I know in the fall, we're going to be rolling out a new study. How do we actually read the Bible? Because we make these strong assumptions that people understand our Christianese lingo, our jargon. But what does that mean? How do we approach this book? How do we understand properly the context, the time, the authorship, the accuracy? And these are things that when people come looking for knowledge, we want to meet them where they're at. But that's not it. That's just not cognitive learning, because anyone can learn something. In our faith, it's obedience, not just with hearing and knowing, but through action. So we take care of their earthly needs. We take care of their spiritual needs. If they need counseling, if it's something more than we can handle, we have resources we can set them up with, that people can help care for them, care ministries, grief ministries, addiction ministries, and understanding that people are going to come to us who are looking for those answers, who have cancer, who are having major marital struggles. And when they come to us, do we have a way, or do we have a ministry that we can love them like Jesus loves them? So those are some of the things that we have going on that we on a weekly basis have people engaged in.
So much of what you just said mimics what we do here, trying to fulfill our mission to inform and educate. And I've used that phrase frequently. That's why this podcast was started. I've said we have to meet people where they're at. And, we will go to libraries, we go to events, but not everyone does that. But people can find us here online. So these are people voluntarily, like yours, coming and seeking answers for what they perceive to be something's wrong with our country. And we're trying to show them the way. So
it's great.
We're trying to grow that base, which you must have that same challenge in a church community. How do you grow your base in your community?
Well, with us, the beauty is we have an example to look to. So Jesus engaged people in relationship, right? The best things that are done in this world are done small and they're done slow. And Jesus didn't throw a giant convention with 10,000 people. He invested in 12 people. And he was really close to 3. He didn't even leave the region of Judea, really. He stayed in that Mediterranean area. He empowered, he discipled. I always say discipleship is not taught, it's caught. He allowed people to witness how he loved people. And often he met someone's need, then talked to them, then discussed. And so with that, it's relationship. People have these core desires in their life. They want to belong. They want to be seen. They want to have purpose. And so when people come here, we have to ask the question, did that person feel seen? Did they belong? Do we have purpose for them? Do we have mission for them? And obviously when people come in the door, they can come in, they can come out. That's a part of it, them coming to us engaging them. But we want to empower our people of the church that they are workspace missionaries and ministers. Like in my position, I'm here to equip Christ followers in the work of reaching the lost, right? Even Jesus said, I didn't come here for the healthy. I came here for the sick, for those who are hurting. And so I think about that. When people come in the doors, do they feel seen? Does someone say hello? Does someone engage them? Does someone reach out to them? And obviously people can keep you at arm's length. We see that all the time. And you get the nonverbals with people too. But I do believe that we won't see change in people's lives unless we try, right? And unless we're willing to be intentional. And intentionality is the life of Jesus. He came here not to be served, but to serve and give his life, and so the heartbeat of Christ was service, right? To completely serve people. Even today, I had someone message me today, like 10 minutes before this, and they said, I have a car. It's got 200,000 miles. Do you know anyone who needs a car? We want to give it to someone. And so I texted a person in our church and I said, you need a car? It's got 200,000 miles. And they said, absolutely, I need a car. We're at a place where we're down a vehicle. And I don't get to share that stuff from the stage often because I want to protect the people would be mad if I told, and I want to protect the dignity of the person who's struggling. Recently we had someone come in where I went and got coffee with them. And he said he had this bill at his asthma provider. And he said he was communicating to his life group, we're We make small payments every time because we're not at a place right now where we can pay off that bill, but it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. The next time he went in, they said, "Hey, your bill's paid for." And he said, who paid for it? They said, "We can't tell you, but it is cleared." And so when you hear those stories, people meeting the needs and caring for their own, that's a way that you engage people, not just through lip service, but through deliverable action. And again, talk is cheap, right? And the church is focused so much on front stage ministry that you forget that Christ was about backstage ministry, what nobody sees. That's real ministry. Because on a Sunday morning, we come together ecumenically, and it's important. We break bread together, we pray together, we worship together. But if that is it for your faith, you're missing the mark. We treat the church more like the destination instead of a sending place. It should be seen more like an airport where you gather for a moment and then are sent out to your mission fields. So I think it's really important that we understand that it is through real, objective, relational action. And so that's what we do to engage people. And some, they won't come back. They won't find a place with us. They won't feel comfortable. We'll be too intrusive. And we get that. That's above our pay grade. That's between them and Christ. But we can do what we feel that we are called to do, which is love them.
It's such an interesting perspective hearing what you said a few minutes ago. One of the first things that you said, having relationships in that the best relationships are small and they're slow and it's purposeful action. That's so opposite of what you hear and what, the flashy, 60,000 person stadium filled Taylor Swift concert that makes headline news. But it's the actual small steps that individual people can take that actually make the most difference in your community, in your surroundings, with your next door neighbors, with your coworkers. It's you just having and stepping up and taking that action and having that deeply personal, slow, purposeful relationship. That, it's such an interesting perspective.
It's one small action at a time. And I'm one of those people that at night sometimes, especially when I first started volunteering, I would sit and I thought, I called somebody today, or I wrote this, or I sent this email. And I felt pride and accomplishment that I was doing something to move our mission forward, instead of sitting on the sidelines and complaining about the latest whatever is going on in politics. This is more than lip service. This is doing something.
Do you have any thoughts or recommendations for our Michigan community in general, for our Convention of States team, for our Michigan Christian culture in general, and how we can re-engage with people?
Yeah, I mean, we live in a world where, again, morality is low, right? When morality decreases, government increases. Was it Thomas Jefferson who said that? And so we're at a place where we're continuing to see authority shift away from that democratic, the democracy that we live in. And so one of the ways that we can do that I believe is go home and love your family. Like you want to love your kids, go love your wife. Wife, you want to love your children, go love your husband, because let's start in the home. This country was built on the home, where there was discipleship in the home, where they were taught in the home. And so where that morality has hurt most is the home. So dad, mom, go teach your kids, have the conversations, because if you don't teach them how to believe, the world will teach them how not to. And so I think it's important for us to go home and intentionally parent our children. And if you don't have kids, maybe you're married, love your wife, love your husband. If you're not married, educate, ask questions. Great leaders ask great questions. Learn with curiosity. Don't go into conversations just looking for answers. Go listening, really trying to hear where people are at. Because a lot of the reason we're in the place we are today is because people aren't willing to have conversations. They're not willing to listen. They create echo chambers. So there's no relationship with Democrats, Republicans, again, Unitarian. This is something where we definitely need to understand how Christ invested in the government. He did that by investing in people. You change people, you change the world. And so one conversation at a time, one moment at a time. And that would be my advice I would give to people who are curious in this and looking for some answers.
Very good. People are, people, to me, that's our greatest resource that we have, our people. And it makes my heart happy to hear you talk about bringing it home, because we all can point to many, many examples where, something isn't happening at home, and we need to help those people.
Absolutely. And I spend maybe an hour, 2 hours with someone on a weekend. But if you're a parent, how many hours do you get to spend a week with your child? Who really has the greater influence? Mm-hmm. And sometimes we forget that. And so that's just something I stand convicted with, something that I'm constantly trying to refine and be prayerful about. And that's where I believe we can see the biggest change.
Thank you so much, Pastor Winsten, for joining us today. This has been an awesome, enlightening, and informative conversation, and we appreciate your time and all of your insights into everything. And for all of you who are listening, it is your constitutional, it's your moral duty to engage with your community. Let's re-engage with that. Let's start it in the home, and let's start it with your neighbors, your co-workers, and just building those relationships, just one person at a time. We are constitutionalists, and it takes all of us working together to preserve our liberties.
Thank you, Kelly, and thank you, Pastor Winsten, for joining us today and sharing your insights. It was really helpful, and I'll use the word again, for me, heartwarming. It's part of what keeps me going every day, is to hear people who are in a position to take action, loving action, and make it work. To anyone listening to this podcast, we invite you to join us. If you have not already signed the petition, please sign the petition so we can let our legislators know that you support an Article 5 convention. Help us bring the power back to the states. We'll give you all of the website addresses on the screen. In the meantime, if you have questions and you'd like to ask me something, or Kelly, or the leadership team here at Convention of States, you can email us at askmi@cosaction.com. Thank you all for joining us, and always remember to stay with the fight.